If money can solve the problem, it's not a problem.
Money solves a lot of problems that not having money creates. Today I get the pleasure to chat with Mr. Frank Mir. And Frank was a UFC heavyweight champion multiple times. Frank had the most submissions in heavyweight history at UFC,
Yes.
Is that true?
Still true, yep. Most
Yeah.
finishes, most submissions, first round finishes also.
Yeah, spent 16 years there. There's the longest uninterrupted run for somebody fighting in that organization.
Yep.
I wanted to chat with Frank. You know, Frank, he literally beat up some of the biggest, toughest men in the world. I remember watching years ago your pay-per-view when your first Brock Lesnar fight. Where, that was a tough fight, but you showed him some things about jiu-jitsu that he didn't understand at that time in his life. So maybe you'd tell that story a little bit. How did that feel going into there? Or how did that? What's your recollection of that? That's my first big impression of you in my mind.
Yeah. I remember being kind of stressed out for that fight, more so than usual, because I was actually comfortable with it, because I was like, well, the guy's a great wrestler, national champion level, one of the most decorated heavyweights in a collegiate folk style type of wrestling that we have in this country. And the reason I got my head messed up is it was the week of the fight. We're doing all the backstage interviews and walking around in all our obligations for the UFC. And I wish I could remember who it was, because I'd probably curse his name at the time. It was funny. One of the guys walked up, he put his hand on my shoulder. There was a fighter on the card. He goes, man, you got to make sure you're representing MMA versus pro wrestling. And I looked at him and was like, oh, wait a minute. He's not a pro wrestler. I mean, yes, he's a pro wrestler, but he's a collegiate wrestler. He's a legitimate fighter, guys. You think that I'm fighting a pro wrestler? And that actually stressed me out. I'm like, oh man, they think I'm fighting some fake fighter, and this guy's legitimately a tough guy. And then I remember something funny that hit my mind when he first walked into the cage. He started shuffling side to side, and obviously Brock's a really good athlete, very agile for a very large man, very fast. I remember sitting there going, I got to sit down with my manager. We got to talk. We got to figure out maybe that we need to find safer paths for me. And so, and I got to learn how to say no. And then when the fight took off, it pretty much went how I expected. I knew he'd be very hard to deal with at the very beginning. Obviously it'd be very difficult for me to take him down and be in a top position. So, I threw strikes knowing that he was just, eventually going to take me down, and then I could fight from the bottom and from there. And everything he was doing was as expected. It was an onslaught of fighting. And I just knew I just had to persevere and wait. And that because of my style, he just has to make one mistake and I can finish the fight, His style, I can make several mistakes and, you get beat up for it. But it wasn't going to be a one-shot finish or a submission. So I knew I could just weather the storm, and once it cleared and it did. I remember I reached down and grabbed his one ankle, and I kind of looked at his reaction, and he hadn't been training long enough. He wasn't afraid of me touching his leg. And I was like, oh, okay, well, now you're screwed. And so I just flipped to the other side, and I actually was going to do an inverted heel hook. And he jumped so hard that he actually drugged me, and he went into the knee bar position. And that's when I started applying the pressure, and I felt him tapping. That was the only weird part, he was tapping me. So I stopped applying pressure, because I don't believe in breaking anybody's limb if they're tapping. But you can't let go, because if the referee doesn't see it or you let go, he tapped. The referee goes, I didn't stop it. The fight continues, And so you see me looking around for Mazzagatti, hey man, I think this is over, right? And as soon as he came and stopped it, jumped up and was happy about the situation, And I think it was a good representation of how, in life, things can always be going bad and struggle. Just, weather the storm and look for your opportunities.
Yeah. I love that story, and I love the way you finish that. Is the majority of people that'll be watching this are people that they're already doing above average, but they know they could do better. And you see a lot of things on the internet. They go to their Instagram, they go to YouTube, and they see what people are talking about, and everything on the internet purports you're going to get rich quick, and you're going to have I'm going to have black belt jiu-jitsu skills overnight, or 2 months or some shit. And the people that I see that have the highest level outcomes, they do exactly what you just said. That you're going to have tough times. You're going to have moments that a person feels like they want to give up. Maybe not at that time for you, but certainly I'm sure there were moments in your life.
If you don't have moments you want to quit, you haven't been pushed hard enough.
Yeah.
When I see other people go, that guy's a quitter, I'm like, you never thought about quitting? Nah, I've never thought about it. Well, it's because you have a very soft life.
Yeah.
Everybody I know that's pushed themselves hard enough, there's moments where you want to quit, and that voice starts talking, and just the conversation begins, and let's see who wins.
I remember times in entrepreneurship. I quit my last job when I was 19. We're about the same age. I'll be 43 in May. And
exactly the same age.
yeah,
When was your
May
birthday?
2nd.
Oh, you're like 2 weeks older than I am.
Yeah. May 2nd. So, yeah, you know, I made my first entrepreneurial money when I was 7, just doing kid stuff of, you know, walking dogs and chopping wood and raking leaves and cutting grass and
Wow.
shoveling snow and, you know, anything that you could figure out to make a couple dollars, you know. And I was 10, I had a paper route. I was 11, I had 4 paper routes, and I didn't do any of the 4 paper routes. I just outsourced them and fill in the blanks when somebody messed up. I had to go fill the void and make sure everything was good, you know. I thought about entrepreneurship my whole life because we grew up poor. I didn't have money. My father wasn't in the house. My mother wasn't doing much, and I didn't want to stay poor. You know, that didn't seem like a good plan for me. So I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. Or, you know, as a kid, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do ultimately, but I knew I wasn't going to stay there, and I was very committed to that. And you know, in kind of an angry way, that, you know, like I'd rather die than stay in like some welfare type shit or live my life that way as an adult. And I knew it, and I meant those words. That wasn't like a fuzzy something or like something a soft kid says or something. And there's plenty of times in entrepreneurship you get your ass kicked and you look embarrassed, you feel stupid, you look stupid, and you know, then you wake up and you got to go do it again. Yeah. And you know, a person that doesn't want to do that, you're not going to be a top level performer in anything. You're not going to have, you know, fantastic financial outcomes. You're sure as hell not going to be a pro fighter that. Even when you win, you go to the hospital in many cases.
This is true.
So, you know, I think I'm curious for your perspective on it, but I think when a person sets a serious goal that they want to do something, they should expect to look stupid in many cases. They should expect to feel bad about themselves. And I think there's a lot of lonely moments that, you know, if you're waiting for somebody to be a cheerleader for you, you're probably not going to make it to the top. And there's probably a lot of lonely moments that you may have experienced, and maybe not. Maybe I don't mean to put words in your mouth,
No.
but I anticipate that the answer is yes, that you have to do a little soul searching or digging and say, well, how much do I want this?
Yeah, ultimately, you have to go to bed by yourself and you wake up in your own mind, you know, by yourself. And so you can have a lot of external help and support, and those things do help. And I always kind of, I question people when they tell me that they've done it completely on their own. I'm like, well, that's not really how humans work. You might not acknowledge where you've received help, whether it was an inspirational quote, whether it was a friendly word or just a simple, a statement of advice. We've helped each other, you know, but ultimately the work is on you. And you're right, there's times in the path that we stumble. I always have a statement, and I've told my children for a long time, you know, sometimes to take us, 2 steps forward, you got to take a step back, you know. And it actually reverberated with my daughter so much that she actually has an arrow tattooed on her arm, because she goes, before an arrow can fly forward, it has to be pulled back, and it struggles. And I tell people all the time, you know, embrace suffering, embrace struggling, because it makes you stronger. You know, pain is a great, and suffering is a great tool. One thing I tell people, if you give a sword sentience, if a sword right now, I gave it awareness and it could talk, and you ask it, hey, what was the forging process like? Probably would be one of the most horrific moments of its existence. Hot, heat, fire, being hammered, molded over and over again. But without that process, we wouldn't have the sword, wouldn't be the sword, right? So like you wouldn't be who you are without suffering. And honestly, I think sometimes that's one thing that I look for now in my life, because I'm kind of on the other end of it, where I don't have to really, through my training, I'm older now, but I still, every time I can, I find situations to put myself in where I'm miserable, where I hate things and I'm hurting, and then I get to really keep zero in on who I am. It kind of breaks down the layers. Comfort can be a very dangerous drug. And when you're too comfortable and you're not used to pain and adversity, you shy from it, you're gonna have a very hard time being successful.
I love what you said, and I'm not a very agreeable person, but I sincerely loved what you said. And I'd encourage people that if you want to do something, you don't move away from that pain and suffering,
No.
but do it in an intelligent way. Be resigned that you're going to have some pain and suffering, but go about that in an intelligent way that you're well rewarded for the pain and suffering. I think Nietzsche talked about this in the 1800s. That I don't remember the exact quote, but the essence was that a man could tolerate a lot of suffering, but it's the real problem is not the suffering; it's suffering for no reason.
Yeah.
And I hate to see that somebody that has the work ethic, has the IQ, is willing to do the tough things, but if you move it in the right direction, if you're working hard in the wrong direction, you might be making your circumstances actually worse.
Yeah. So I don't actually use the word hard work in my household. I think that sometimes it's a dumb man's approach to solving a problem. Well, if I chop this tree down with a dull axe, I can get it down. Or we can figure out how to get a chainsaw, take some time to think through this, and we can apply our energy much more efficiently and effectively and accomplish a lot more. But I think sometimes when people don't want to be smart and strategically approach a situation, they make up for a lack of intelligence with with hard work, effort. Well, I'm up at 6 a.m., I'm hammering away, I woke up at 8 and accomplished more than you did. What's the point? At the end of the day, it's results in what we have. And sometimes people, they get lost in that process of like, well, I'm trying hard. I'm like, you go to the gym, you can go ahead and, if you ran 100 miles every day, you're actually not going to be better. It's too much on the body. It tears you down. So more is not, harder is not always the best word. So that's why we always say, in my household, we always say work smarter.
When the shortcut that I found, the shortcut to success that I found, or the closest thing to it, is to be willing to tolerate that hard work. But hard work isn't enough. And, the point that you
gotta
made,
be smart.
That if you're working too hard, you might literally be making your circumstances worse in a different way. Yep. That running 100 miles a day is not going to prepare you for very good outcomes. You do that for a few days in a row.
Point of diminishing returns.
For sure. So the best thing I found that's like a shortcut is to find people that did what you want to do already.
Yes.
That already did that. When I wanted to learn more and more about business, I never wanted a job. I quit my last job when I was 19, but I still went and got 3 college degrees. I spent 9 years in universities, and I went to Ivy League school, went to University of Chicago for business school, for graduate school, which was ranked number 1 out of 416 when I was there. And I wanted to have the best teachers, the best coaches, the best. I didn't have that growing up, and I think that was a lot of my frustration in my early life. Was I was willing to work hard, but I didn't have somebody to point me in the right direction, and I didn't have that person naturally, and I was too young. I didn't earn that spot yet. That over time you can do little things, and you'll stand out to somebody who's already done something significant, and now you have a teacher or a coach that's can help you a hell of a lot. And if you did that well, then maybe you'll find another better teacher or coach that can help you a hell of a lot. So
it's funny. You and I probably agree on a lot of things. Like I very much am into tribalism. I believe that
I am too.
And that's an aspect of it that's very important. One of the single greatest factors of success was a Stanford study that was done, and they took like 1,500 students and they followed them over different ethnic backgrounds, economic where they came from economically, all the way through. They ran the gambit, and they found that. Didn't matter their race, their creed, their color, whatever, how much money their parents had. The one greatest factor of success was whether their parents were married or not. So as long as mom and dad, they had a man in the household, that was the factor of the greatest quantifiable point of success. And I think that comes down to especially I think, men, we need men around us to kind of show us the way and guide us. And if you have a man that doesn't have, a woman raising a man is limited, and I think that's why you have problems. And such as yourself, you had to seek out, obviously it sounds like you're telling me your father wasn't the greatest, maybe role model in a positive way, but sometimes they can be a role model of what we don't want to be. But you were able to search out other role models to help you guide where you wanted to be. And I agree with you. I do that now. I try to surround myself with people that are, I've been spending 20 years learning how to fight. I don't necessarily the greatest businessman, but then I have friends that are good at business, and I'm like, hey man, so what would I do in this situation? What would I do there? I realize that we all can help each other out and mentor each other and guide and seek out those, and make sure you're appreciative and genuine with that advice. There's nothing worse than I give advice to somebody, hey, do this, and like 2 months later, like, I still got this problem. Like, hey, so did you do what I told you to do? No. I'm like, so you just want to sit here and bitch about the problem? I don't got that kind of brain. It'll drive me insane. I have a friend right now that he has some issues, and I've told him, and I've actually brought other people in to help me with it, and he just sent me a text. I can't even respond to it. I'm upset with him right now because I told him like he's not able to live that 100% life. I made a joke about 90-10. 90% of the time, do what you want. 10% of the time, you can enjoy life, as far as when it comes to eating and alcohol and whatnot. And he doesn't know how to follow the 10% rule. So I told him, you got to go 100%. You can't. And he's not listening to me.
Yeah, well, anybody that knows me well, my friends or anybody that's close to me at all, I'm happy to help them solve problems. But if they call me and tell me about a problem, we're not going to cry together.
Right.
We're not going to, I might spend 30 seconds.
I'm not a shoulder.
I might be sympathetic for 30 seconds. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but let's solve the problem.
30 seconds later, like, all right, what are we going to do about
fix it? Yes, I agree with 100%.
If they don't like that conversation, they should probably call somebody else. I'm probably not the right person to talk to about it. 30 seconds later, I want to be, all right, what are we going to do to fix this?
I agree 100%.
How are we going to turn this around? What are the resources available to make things better? What are the liabilities that we need to get rid of to be able to make the best use of those resources and make things better?
Yeah,
and
I agree.
A lot of people don't want to hear that. One of my buddies...
No, people just want to complain. I've learned that as I've gotten older. I'm like, you just want to complain to me. You don't actually want to fix the problem. You just like it. This is your identity. This issue, this feeling bad for you, the suffering and whatnot.
Years ago, one of my friends, I'll omit his name for his privacy, but one of my friends, great guy, he's tall, he's 6'3", 6'4", and V-shaped torso and fit, and went to graduate school, and he had a lot of good things going for him, hardworking guy, smart guy. But he's kind of had a soft life, and he calls me in kind of a panic, and that concerned me because I know something terrible would have to happen in my life to have this sense of panic in my in my thought or my voice. So I thought, well, what's going on? He said, I hit a deer with my car, and I'm like, did it go through the windshield? Did it fucking kick you in the face? What you okay? He said, well, yeah, but I hit the deer, and we might need a tow truck, and I'm like, what's the problem? Just help me understand, what's the real problem? And he's like, well, I hit the deer. I'm like, you're fucking calling me about to cry or something, like in a panic, because why? I said, don't do that. I hung up on him. Don't ever do that shit again. If you have a real problem, let me know.
If money can solve the problem, it's not a problem. You know what I mean? Like, if you can fix it financially, I don't care if the IRS is after you, whatever. It's like, if money fixes, it's not a real problem. If you lose your hand, you can't buy your hand back, right? That's a problem. You get cancer, someone dies, someone's sick, health. Money can't fix those issues. Those are problems. If money can fix a problem, it's not a problem.
Money solves a lot of problems that not having money creats. And I made sure early
Makes
in life.
life easier, freedom.
Yeah. Money just means your freedom. I say that all the time. That when I talk about money. All I'm really saying is freedom.
Yeah, 100%.
Money purchases the freedom. The best gift that money buys you, in my personal life, the best gift that money bought me is I don't have to spend time with people that I don't like. I don't have to spend time with anybody that I don't like. I don't care if they're wealthy. I don't care if they're famous. If I don't like somebody, I don't need to spend time with them.
Well, that's the most valuable commodity we have, right? Is your time, your life. That's it. You can't buy back the last second. So
a person that doesn't value their time literally doesn't value their life. Your whole life is an accumulation of those little moments. Yeah. And a person that's not taking their time seriously, doesn't value their own time, you're literally being disrespectful to your own life. And if you're doing that consistently, then there's nobody else of high quality. There's nobody else that's accomplished and serious about accomplishing more that's going to spend time with that person. Because they can't take it seriously either. They can't help but see that universal truth of like, oh, this guy's not even serious about doing anything for themselves. Maybe he'll be your drinking buddy. Maybe you could have a beer together.
Well, misery does enjoy company, right?
You could have a beer together once a year, but then they got to go back to doing something productive, something industrious again.
I was living on my coach's living room on a mattress. I ended up just bouncing at a bar. I'd been a cop. I quit my job. And
Derek Moneyberg presents the 10 Commandments of Wealth.
Took the gamble on myself to become a successful professional fighter and make it to the UFC or Pride. And at the time,
am I making a sacrifice right now, or am I just investing in a better future? So it's easier for me to make those decisions when I think about it as like, oh.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you mention it, having to actually really process and think about it, I think that word sacrifice is kind of like, I believe it's the word that the ones at the top kind of use to make everyone else feel better about it. Because when you're at the top, now you realize that was an investment.
Was everything just golden and easy and handed to you, or did you have a little struggle yourself along the way?
No. Yeah, in 2013 and 2015, I was living out of my car, full time, and I was too proud to ask for help. Like, how ridiculous is that? You're living out of your car and you think you know it all. And 2015, that's when I kind of I knew that I didn't know it all. So why not find experts in that and really shortcut that? I thought I was gonna just chip away. I thought I was just gonna read books till I was an expert. I never really talked to anyone that actually did it.
It's been about a week since I've joined the 10 Commandments of Wealth program, and there's so many interviews that are offered in this program.
I'm inside the Derek Moneyberg 10 Commandments of Wealth program. This is an awesome program that you're gonna love. I'm gonna use the principles and the knowledge from this program to help me boost my leads in my marketing firm. Buy this program, it's a wonderful investment for your future. You won't regret it and you'll absolutely love it.